Recording in progress.
Okay, good morning, everyone. Please confirm you can hear me.
Good morning. We can hear you. I can hear you very well.
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, good morning. We have a growing list of attendees. We have all our panelists. The EVC will be joining us very shortly. But we'll be able to kick off now, just maybe a few minutes, about 2-3 minutes ahead of scheduled time. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us for this very, very important conversation on AI infrastructure readiness in Nigeria, and obviously extensively, we can extrapolate this to all of Africa. I am Izuagbe Emoekpere, Director, Africa Hyperscalers, and it is our distinct pleasure here to host the AI Ready Africa webinar focused on building the compute, cloud, and connectivity foundations for the next digital leap. Over the past few years, especially 3 years, we remember, I think ChatGPT rose to prominence about 2-3 years ago. I think it was end of November. We've seen how this rapid acceleration of AI has reshaped global conversations. And many have now argued that maybe perhaps we're witnessing the emergence of the 5th industrial revolution. We have seen AI transforming every sector, every country. None is an exception. And across the global industry, AI is redefining how digital infrastructure operators are working, how networks are planned, managed, and optimized. It's powering everything from predictive maintenance and improved customer experience to spectrum efficiency and ultimately real-time decision-making. But these advances are not just applications. The success of AI begins with the foundations beneath: the compute power, cloud capacity, resilient energy systems, high-quality fiber networks, and enabling policies required to support AI at scale. And today's infrastructure readiness session is about answering some simple but defining questions. What must African countries, especially Nigeria, do to become truly AI ready? What are the use cases, whether enterprise or non-enterprise? And how can they scale to increase AI demand in Nigeria? What is the role of collaboration in infrastructure and capacity development? How do we build the talent army required to thrive in an AI world? And what should operators across connectivity, data centers and cloud, regulatory, investors, what should they be doing? And then we have the role of the ancillary stakeholders, such as energy stakeholders, among others. How are we to work together to see capacity development for AI, and not only a priority at the company level, which is currently where we are now, but as a national and continental priority? But fortunately, we are very privileged to hear from leaders who sit at the seats of this transformation: regulators, operators, cloud providers, infrastructure builders, innovators, and everyone shaping Africa's digital future. And their perspectives, their insights will help us understand what still needs to be built, where collaboration is most urgent, and how we can ensure that Africa, that Nigeria is not left behind in this AI race. I want to give a very special thank you to our speakers, Dr. Aminu Maida, Executive Vice Chairman, the Nigerian Communications Commission, and the telecoms regulator in Nigeria, who I believe will be on the call by now. We'll check in that in a moment. The president of the Association of Telecoms Companies of Nigeria and our partner, Mr. Tony Izuagbe Emoekpere. Dr. Ayotunde Coker, Chief Executive Officer, Open Access Data Centers, who will be moderating this who will be moderating the very, very stellar panel that we have. Bukola Ajayi, General Manager, Architecture and Enterprise IT, MTN. Kendall Ananyi, Chief Executive Officer and Founder, Tizeti. Oladejo Olawumi, Director, IT Infrastructure Solutions, National Information Technology Development Agency, NITDA. Salem, Vice President and Chief Information Security Officer and Group Head of Artificial Intelligence at IHS Towers, Okechi Osuagwu, Regional Manager, Vertiv, and also from Vertiv, Wilson Eigbadon, Regional Manager, Vertiv. And then from NCC, Engineer Babagana Digima, Head Cybersecurity and Internet Governance, Nigerian Communications Commission, and Dotun Adeoye, Co-Founder, AI in Nigeria. So I'll take a very quick moment to just wait if there's any comments and to also see if everyone is here and ready to start. Okay, so let me quickly confirm EVC. I'm not sure I've seen him. Here yet. Okay. EVC, sir, are you on the call? Dr. Maida?
Yes, I am. Good morning.
Yes. Good morning, sir. Great to have you on the call, and it's a very distinguished pleasure to welcome you, sir. So we are all on the call, and I'll just go on. Thank you, sir. Thank you, everyone, for being part of this very important discussion. And I particularly am looking forward to the ideas, the clarity, and the partnership that we emerge today as we work together to build an AI-ready Africa. That said, it's my pleasure and privilege to welcome the telecommunications regulator in Nigeria, Dr. Aminu Maida, Executive Vice Chairman, Nigerian Communications Commission, for his keynote address themed AI Ready Africa, building the compute, cloud, and connectivity foundations for the next digital leap. Over to you, sir. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Tim Tokwe, and it's a pleasure to be here as well. I guess without wasting too much time, I'll go into my keynote speech. With distinguished colleagues, hyperscalers, fellow regulators, innovators, ladies and gentlemen, good morning once again. It is a pleasure to join you for this conversation on Africa's readiness for artificial intelligence, and I thank Africa Hyperscalers for convening this forum. Our theme, AI Ready Africa, building the compute, cloud, and connectivity foundations for the next digital leap, forces us to ask a simple question. Are our networks, power systems, data assets, and regulatory frameworks truly ready for the scale and speed of AI adoption that Africa needs? AI is no longer a niche technology. It is becoming part of the basic infrastructure of competitiveness, just like roads, power, and ports. Countries that don't get the foundations right will unlock new productivity, new jobs, and new opportunities. Those that don't will find themselves consuming other people's innovations instead of shaping theirs. For Africa, with the world's youngest population, the opportunity is huge. But if we ignore inclusion, AI could deepen existing inequalities between rich and poor, urban and rural, connected and unconnected. Telecom sits at the center of the story. Connectivity is no longer just a sector. It is the foundation of every sector. Our networks now carry critical services across global economies and increasingly foundational to AI. The NCC has therefore had to evolve. We remain a regulator, but at the heart of it, we are an economic and developmental enabler. We focus on infrastructure that catalyzes growth and leaves no community behind. Across Africa, we must adopt a simple principle. AI must not become a privilege for the already connected few. It must become a tool for broad-based national uplift. To achieve that, there are three AI divides we must address. First, the compute divide, the gap in access to affordable, scalable computing power. Without data center capacity, GPUs, and efficient infrastructure, we risk being stuck as AI consumers, not AI creators. Second, the algorithmic divide. Where models are trained mainly on non-African data, they struggle with our languages, cultures, and realities, and may reinforce biases against them. Third, the data divide. The fact that much of Africa's data is uncollected, fragmented, or locked in silos. Without high-quality, responsible governed data, even the best infrastructure will underperform. At NCC, we see our work as contributing to closing these divides in three ways: through connectivity, through support for compute, cloud, and data centers, and through governance and adaptive regulation. So first, let me talk about connectivity. Without robust, affordable, widespread connectivity, there is no AI-ready Africa. Nigeria's National Broadband Plan 2020 to 2025 has guided efforts to expand fiber, reduce costs, improve quality, and deepen last-mile access. Today, broadband penetration is approaching half of the population. 4G covers most population centers. 5G has been launched, and coverage in underserved areas is expanding. At NCC, we are investing in broadband intelligence, including coverage maps, broadband mapping tools, and crowdsourced quality of service data. This evidence will guide decisions on where the need to deploy infrastructure such as fiber and data centers, where to focus universal service support, and where future compute clusters and edge nodes can be located. We are also advancing a wholesale broadband and open access framework to unlock more value from networks, lower barriers for smaller ISPs, encourage infrastructure sharing, and support last-mile fiber expansion to homes, schools, businesses, and public institutions. Secondly, let me talk about the compute, cloud, and data centers. Nigeria's data center market is growing strongly. Our role is not just to build data centers, though, but to create a stable, predictable, and competitive environment where investors can do so with confidence, from hyperscale facilities in major hubs to edge centers closer to users. We recognize the interdependence between AI, compute, and power. AI needs compute. Compute needs power. Power needs resilience. We are therefore working with other government agencies and partners to improve power reliability for digital infrastructure, support hybrid and green energy solutions, and ensure data centers and networks can operate sustainably and efficiently. On the cloud side, we see cloud as a great equalizer. It allows governments, startups, SMEs, hospitals, schools, to mention a few, to use AI without owning expensive hardware. And we're seeing growing investments and adoption across sectors. Third, and lastly, governance and adaptive regulation. Infrastructure alone does not make a system AI ready. It must also be well-governed, safe, and trusted. NCC is moving towards a more adaptive regulatory model to keep up with technological change. This includes innovation sandboxes and proof of concept windows, interim authorizations, and technology-neutral licensing that allows operators to modernize networks without complex relicensing. We are also finalizing a cybersecurity framework for the communications sector and strengthening protection for users, including against misinformation and synthetic media. We are also working with stakeholders to protect fiber routes, submarine cables, and base stations, and to improve right-of-way and infrastructure protection. you would agree with me, infrastructure has little value if it is constantly under threat. Our work at NCC is also closely linked with the National Artificial Intelligence Strategy led by the Federal Ministry of Communications, Innovation, and Digital Economy under the leadership of Honorable Minister Dr. Bosun Tijani. One of the flagship initiatives is the development of Nigeria's first multilingual large language model, trained in several low-resource Nigerian languages and accented English. This sends a clear message. African voices and contexts must be visible in the datasets that shape global AI. By pairing local innovation on the AI side with strong connectivity and computing infrastructure, we begin to close all three divides at once: compute, algorithms, and data. So let me close with two simple questions for all of us. First, how do we ensure that Africa's AI journey reduces rather than reinforces old inequalities between urban and rural, male and female, large and small enterprises, connected and unconnected? Second question, what new models of collaboration will we need between hyperscalers, regulators, energy providers, infrastructure companies, innovators, development partners, and other stakeholders to build AI-ready infrastructure at the scale and speed Africa requires? These are shared questions because the digital future is a shared future. Once again, I thank you for your attention. I look forward to a practical conversation and to the partnerships that will grow out of this forum. Thank you once again, and good morning, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you very much. I think this is about the time we should have the virtual claps and virtual applause. Good morning. Thank you very much, Dr. Maida. That was a very, very interesting and very impactful keynote. We are encouraged by your points on what the commission and again and extensively the ministry is doing about the development of a stable competitive market, working with stakeholders to obviously improve the power reliability issue that most operators have. We are also happy to hear that you're working on infrastructure protection. And I think for a lot of operators, that is one of the biggest issues that they face. And your last comment slash question, which is about the sort of collaboration that we now need to work together across verticals, across the industry, and again, across the continent to build AI-ready infrastructure at the scale and speed required. I think this intervention is very well heard and very well met, and we thank you for this. It is my pleasure now to welcome the president. I hope you can all still hear me.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Fantastic. All right, thank you. It's my pleasure now to introduce and welcome the president of the Association of Telecommunications Companies of Nigeria, ATCON, Mr. Tony Izuagbe Emoekpere, to deliver his keynote address on the future of AI in telecoms, opportunities and challenges for Nigeria. Thank you all. Please let's give him an applause, a welcome virtually as we do, as he takes the podium. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you, Temi, and good morning, everyone. Good morning, the EVC, Dr. Aminu Maida. Very interesting keynotes. I don't know how I'll follow up that keynote, but I'll do my best. Dear distinguished directors of regulators here present, captains of industries, innovators, partners, good morning. It's a privilege really to join this discussion on the future of AI in telecoms. Indeed, when I saw the subject, I was like, this is something I'm supposed to do some kind of predictive, but luckily there was a subtitle, Opportunities and Challenges for Nigeria. So that's very easy for us to narrow it down to just the opportunities and challenges. So pardon me if I'm not too predictive in my discussion, this morning, but I'll really be focusing on what are the opportunities basically, because I would like to strike a positive note. The subject is really focused on the telecom industry, okay? And my discussion and address will be centered around the telecom space. Now we know that telecom, as it is today, is actually the backbone of modern life. Everything from commerce, education, security, healthcare, governance, even social connectivity. Our connectivity here is all underpinned by telecommunication and telecommunication services and telecommunication networks. So right now we need to understand that properly. But one of the things we need to understand is that telecom services and infrastructure is no more a reactive system. It's now beginning to think. We now have intelligent ecosystems, and we are evolving from just reactive systems to systems that can predict, systems that can optimize, they are learning and they are self-healing. And as such, AI, of course, is no longer an experimental solution. It's actually a cornerstone in every service everybody delivers today. So it is operational, is no longer a thing of speculation. AI is here to stay. So for the telecommunications sector in Nigeria, and what are the real opportunities this AI brings? Because we need to be sure that we are ready for AI. We need to be able to benefit from AI, and we need to ensure that our telecom networks are actually AI driven. So we need to look at it from not just from a technology standpoint, but also from investments and also policies that will enable our networks unlock the immense value of AI across our Nigerian economy. And as such, I'll be focusing on the opportunities that are before us as a sector in terms of the telecommunications networks and services we render. And I've narrowed it down to about 7 key opportunities I can readily off my hand research and see that are open to us. And most of these opportunities are actually low-hanging fruits. Some networks are already doing things in these areas, and I will highlight where I've seen networks already providing this kind of solutions. So first is predictive maintenance and operational efficiency. So AI can actually fundamentally change how we manage and operate our networks. Imagine you picture a base station or a fiber link that can internally stress test, that it can anticipate faults, that can trigger repairs, and even provide customer notices even before the problem occurs. These are opportunities that that are already available now, okay, that we can actually start developing and deploying in networks as we stand today. So one will ask, how can we start achieving this kind of solutions? For example, you can deploy edge AI sensors that can actually be deployed around base stations that can monitor things like vibration sensors, even video. Right now, you have CCTV cameras, for example, that are basically dumb. They can be AI enabled, whereby they can actually understand the patterns around the base station and predict what kind of security threats are around the base stations, for example, especially when we talk about CNI. You can also start talking about things like AI-enabled drones that can automatically drive around. I know that some drones are already being deployed currently by some of the network operators. These are also opportunities that are readily available right now with AI. And these are low-hanging fruits, and some of them are already being deployed. We can build predictive maintenance database. So right now we can start linking databases of all issues. I know the NCC already has a database whereby things like fiber cuts and things of that nature are really collected from operators. We now can start enabling AI to start to be more predictive, more preemptive, not overly reactive. So these are some of the areas we can have opportunities on the predictive maintenance and operational efficiency. Another opportunity, obviously, and I'm sure some I've been engaging on to people that are on this call, is dramatically improving our customer experience. We have over 220 million people, and subscriber base is increasing tremendously. AI-powered virtual assistants, chatbots, but not the ones we see now, but truly enabled AI virtual assistants can be utilized and are already being utilized at the moment. But right now, what we are seeing is that there's still a long way to go in terms of our AI virtual assistants. Okay, for example, they should be able to speak in English, Pidgin, Hausa, Igbo, and Yoruba. And kudos to what we heard from the EVC's keynote address, that already a framework has already been put in place for this kind of languages to be developed in terms of AI. So in terms of what exactly can we do in terms of customer experience, we can deploy, like we said, no more conventional AI assistants, but actually truly immersed AI assistants who can learn and who understand all the issues in the networks. And we can integrate customer sentiment analytics into our CRM systems, for example. So just not just once you make a call, I should be able to understand even from where you are calling, what kind of issues you normally occur in your area. These are things that AI can do readily at the moment. We can automate some inquiries. A lot of inquiries are just first and second level. They should be automated automatically. There's no need for any assistant to even responses should be automated immediately. And these are low-hanging fruit for operators right now as we speak. We can also look at things like digital twins for your customer journey. So, for example, I even use an app whereby you have a virtual assistant that tracks you as you use the app. And these are things that are obviously opportunities that for us in the customer experience area. Third is a smart spectrum and energy management. Now, we all know that spectrum is a very scarce commodity, and also energy is extremely expensive and not readily available. AI gives us the power to optimize both. With AI-driven spectrum allocation, networks can reduce congestion, improve call quality, and make better use of the limited frequencies that they have. On the power side, AI can manage hybrid systems. We can even do things like predictive of weather patterns. Depends on what you feed into your hybrid systems. You can balance loads. You can forecast energy demands. And definitely all these kind of things that can help you reduce your fuel consumption. And you can also improve solar power management, because when you know for example, weather patterns and things of that nature, these are low-hanging fruits and opportunities that we need to start utilizing, especially when the regulator is heavily on the customer experience, the quality of experience. How do we optimize our networks? How do we ensure our networks operate efficiently using AI? So some of the things we can use is, for example, you can no longer do you need to do just, for example, drive tests and planning tools. You can use AI-enabled tools for things like that. You have IoT power meters that can actually remotely monitor, remotely provide the information straight down to your network operating system. These are low-hanging fruits and opportunities that we can start to look at immediately. And all these are, so I've looked at it from the network side. Now, from a broader side, we can now start looking at what are the opportunities for telecom companies as they provide services to the country at large, for example. So they can also become catalysts for broader economic growth. Okay, so like we said already, the telecom networks underpin everything from fintech. All fintech transactions occur via the telecom networks. Health tech solutions can be empowered by telecom networks. Educational tech platforms are provided by the telecom networks. Even smart agriculture. There are farms these days that have sensors already deployed in farms. These are all, and they are SIM card enabled. So these are all things that are, and also internet access enabled. So these are all things that are empowered by the telecom sector. So what can we do as an industry, and what advantage can we provide? We can start to build, and like I said, a lot of things I'm going to mention are already being done, and we're just looking for a better or higher implementation of them. For example, build shared telecom AI innovation labs. Several operators are doing that here. Develop AI-specific platforms for APIs that can be shared between all the platforms. Encourage edge computing nodes. This is something that is in the works. I'm sure maybe when the panel discussion is up, we'll hear more about the challenges to edge computing nodes. But as long as the data centers are centered around coastal cities, it limits the deployment. Okay, and then encourage operator startup partnerships. And I think one or two MNOs and other operators are already doing things in that nature. Another area that's an opportunity for AI is AI-driven security and fraud protection. I know Airtel already has a solution. I think it was launched. I think the minister was at the event where they launched the AI-driven fraud protection. And these are low-hanging fruits and opportunities for us. And if you notice, I'm dwelling a lot on opportunities. I don't want to dwell too much on challenges, because the challenges are well known. I think we'll discuss them more on the panel session. So you can deploy AI fraud detection engines, use AI for biometric verification. These are all services that can be offered by the telcos and ISPs and people in that space. Integrate telecom fraud platforms with banks, for example. So because there are issues whereby some of your phone lines are being used to perpetrate some kind of security and fraud, there should be a way to harmonize platforms from both telecoms and banks. And I know there's a framework already being done in that regard. We can also look at personalized services and these are new revenue streams that operators can start to look at, and these are all can be AI driven. You can now personalize services across students, across SMEs, across rural communities. You can personalize services across large enterprises using AI to personalize the services, not just the traditional telecom service of providing either voice or data. With AI, you can enable more personalized, and you can actually untap new revenue streams. For example, you can use behavioral analytics, location-based solutions to target your services to locations, for example. You can also offer AI-powered SME products. Okay, for example, right now our POS are still a bit dumb relatively. You can start looking at things like smart POS, and I think this is a very in this area. I think with the advent of the MVNOs, these are opportunities that have been untapped for that sector in terms of providing targeted solutions to students, and luckily some of the MVNOs already launched. So these are opportunities that are already available and are being utilized. And I think lastly, we can now position Nigeria, okay, on the global stage as a competitive and country in terms of AI. So for example, I know there are plans to establish national GPU clusters. I think there was some announcements in that regard. Offer incentives for local AI hosting. These are opportunities that we can tap and position the country, and through the telcos and operators and in our telecommunications space, create a national AI interconnect framework, for example. These are linking all the data centers, internet exchange points, and edge nodes when they eventually come on stream, and then align Nigeria with Africa digital protocols. So these are basically opportunities that we have. Now, in terms of challenges, of course, I think they are well known, and they are a bit numerous. I think EBC in his keynote alluded to some, and he also alluded to some of the things that the regulator is already doing, and in regards to that, for example, in terms of infrastructure, how connected are we? How many GPUs clusters do we have deployed in Nigeria, for example? Are we able to attract those kind of deployments to our data center? Do we have workloads that can utilize those GPUs, for example? Do we have enough energy? Is our energy reliability? We know how much power these GPU clusters consume. These are challenges that they are there, and we know that there's work in progress, but these are challenges that we need to face. How ripe is the AI industry really and truly in Nigeria? These are challenges we need to look at. But I think the biggest challenge we see is actually, do we have the skills and the talents to actually deploy AI? What are schools churning out? Do we have AI engineers? Do we have the demand from? How do we as a telecom industry stimulate AI demand so that we can ensure that more skills sets are acquired in this area? In terms of even the average consumer, how digital literate is he? So that's why when you have to start looking at things of translating this into different languages. So in conclusion, there's no single operator, no single regulator, or any single company can build the AI telecom ecosystem alone. We all need to collaborate. All these areas we have mentioned are things that we need to collaborate together as an industry, and especially with our regulators. We need to start looking at how we can build more public-private partnerships. Everywhere we know that technological advancement actually sometimes is stimulated by government. So once government policies are in place that can stimulate this kind of deployments, we are not looking at regulation, but stimulation. Okay, so the policies are what we are all that we really policies that can drive and stimulate AI adoption is what we need. And from what we have seen so far, we believe the future is bright for AI adoption in Nigeria. We're already seeing a lot of strides in that area. So many hyperscalers have deployed so many huge data centers. We keep on hearing announcement after announcement of plans to deploy not only data centers, but also build out fiber networks across the country. So we know we have the population, we have the creativity, we have the ambition, and we believe that we'll succeed. And with that, I'll say a big thank you for the opportunity to give this such speech on the future of AI in telecoms in Nigeria. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. Thank you so much for such an insightful keynote, and you saved us, you and the Honorable EVC saved us some time. So looking well on time. Thank you. Some of the points you noted, I'll just quickly highlight them. Again, some of them, the Honorable EVC had mentioned them. AI should be able to speak in local languages, conversations around shared AI labs right now, and then encouraging more collaboration across operators, across startups, and really the whole industry coming together to say, what is a potential AI roadmap for Nigeria? How do we progress this? How do we make it work for us? And then some of the use cases, obviously, security, fraud protection, and so on, convergence of IoT, 5G, and edge computing to create real teleintelligence networks, agents who will see that AI agents across the world, AI agents that can reason and act autonomously, also going to be the in thing shortly. And then the last comment, do we have the skills and talents? And we do have this huge population, and we need to work critically and quickly to ensure that we convert them into the digital army. And then stimulation, not regulation. And I think that's a good point that our regulator has taken, our regulators on this call have taken. So move on very quickly to the next part of this. It's my pleasure to welcome Okechi Osuagwu, Regional Manager Vertiv, who will be speaking on AI-ready infrastructure solutions. And this sort of now takes us into our high-powered panel discussion, which I believe is one of my highlights for this session and one of the conversations I'm looking forward to. Vertiv is a partner, and they are a global company that designs, builds, and builds and services critical digital infrastructure for data centers, communication networks, and commercial and industrial environments. So that said, I welcome Okechi Osuagwu, Regional Manager, Vertiv. Okechi, over to
thank you very much, Temi, and good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Permit me to stand on existing protocol. So I like when the EVC in his keynote address, he said that there won't be any AI if we don't have the proper infrastructure in place. So, and that's one of the reasons we're going to look at AI-ready infrastructure solutions. And Vertiv has been on the foremost in developing this infrastructure that enables AI to run. So just to move on, let's look at the key things that is happening. We can see that from 2020, during the early stage of the COVID till now, over 180 zettabytes of data has been generated, which is much more than what have been done in the past all collective together, and is expected to grow to like the 221 zettabytes by 2026. And we can see also that about 32 million additional unique mobile internet subscribers will be added both on the projection, what we see today, by 2030. So on the data center space, currently we have over 60 megawatts data center capacity, and we can see over 328 is being planned or will be under construction within this window. You can see the leap showing, which is being orchestrated by the advent of AI. So looking at the generative AI, for instance, just like the ChatGPT, about 2.9 watts is, for instance, is taken to process one query on ChatGPT. When compared to the Google search of 0.3 watts, you can see the leap in power requirements for AI system. So
let me, Okechi, are you sharing something? We can't see it.
Oh, you can't see what I'm sharing? Okay, sorry.
No, we can. Yes. So quickly.
Okay. Let me know when you can see that.
It's coming up now. Yes, it's here now. Yes, go ahead. Just put it in presentation mode and then go ahead. Yes,
okay.
Absolutely.
Sorry about that. Yeah, so you can see that. Okay. So these are just the highlights of what we're seeing, the upload of burst of data and the space, the capacity upsurge. So now for the infrastructure, AI infrastructure solution, we need to look at the key things we need to manage. So in terms of power, now, if for instance, the AI thing will have the GPUs and the NPUs, which are the AI accelerators. So these are being designed, and they take much of power consumption per chip, per space in the semiconductor space. And with this power surge, we need to rejig the way we design our infrastructure. The existing infrastructure we have in place is not able to cope with what we are seeing on the power consumption that the GPU and NPUs are doing today. So, and also we know the bring your own power needs to be considered. So on the thermal space, which is the cooling, we need to accommodate today the normal air cooling system we have cannot meet up with this power consumption and the heat radiated by this high compute GPUs and NPUs. So we need to rethink other means, and some of the things we are looking at is liquid cooling, and we are looking at the rear door cooling system that makes use of existing chilled water cooling system. So we also need to look at our racks. Now racks are having more compute, so and are converging together. The way we design our rack, the way we design our PDUs and co, we need to look at it. Then design and deployment. You can see the change we have from 2020 to 2025. So if you build a data center, for instance, of today, now maybe in the next 1 or 2 years, you will run out of space. You will need to require to rebuild another one. So we need to look at a design that is scalable, and you can always bring it into scale as your data and power, everything is increasing. So then we look at the life cycle management of everything. So in this my presentation, we're going to look at the key things that solutions we have in place for the AI solutions. Now we are looking at integrated edge solution. as of today, we know that AI is everywhere, but in Nigeria or Africa in general, we notice that maybe this AI is not home yet. So because what we have is the AI, let's say the ChatGPT large language model that's being competed on regional and global data centers. So we need to bring this in home. For instance, when you have an autonomous vehicle, we cannot depend on the regional or global data centers to run your autonomous vehicle system. Now, for smart healthcare, you cannot depend on all those things to run your smart healthcare. So you need an edge device solutions that will enable this thing to run off and give you low latency and guarantee the security and everything that is tailored for such a solution. Then on the power side, we need to look at scalable power infrastructure to allow you to grow to scale so that you don't tie your CapEx upfront. So you grow as your needs are coming up. Then finally, we're going to look at the high density thermal management. That's the cooling solutions that are really equipped for the AI surge. So what are the edge system? So now when computes are done close to where the data are generated, this is what we call edge. For instance, when you have your sensors connected to maybe for traffic management, for healthcare, for smart home or smart agriculture. So the sensors are getting data, and it's going to cost a lot to transmit these data, which are large-scale data, over to the regional or cloud data centers. So now this needs to be computed at the edge, and that's why we have edge computing. So we're going to look at the edge infrastructure that enable this AI to be brought back home. So for Vertiv, we on the edge solutions, we have integrated modular solutions that can scale as we go. So I'm going to go detail later. So we have our smart cabinets, our smart row, smart eye, and smart node. So smart cabinets is when you have all your compute requirements in one simple rack. For instance, you can see from what is being displayed on the system, you have your space for active devices, your servers and co. You have your cooling, you have your UPS, everything in one system. You have your environmental monitoring, have your fire suppression system, and co, all in one device. So now this is what is enabling this edge AI to work. So it's sort of now maybe you want to do edge AI, start building a regular traditional data center. So you can have this. So based on your compute need, have this in the smart cabinet mode. So we also have the smart row. So in the smart row, you just have a row of maybe racks from 3 to 10 rack system in a row, and everything comes integrated with its own power, cooling, and compute infrastructure in one system. So these are designed and they can deliver to locations that require the need like this. So the different components you have in your normal data center, your monitoring, everything is integrated in this system. So, and the power distribution are designed to scale. So as your power requirements are jumping, the power distribution has been designed to allow you to scale to the maximum capacity of the smart row. So we also have the smart eye. This is a mini data center that can range from 8 to 20 racks. So you have this pre-design, your racks, your cooling, everything to do your data center requirements are in this format. So, and it can scale up to 20 kilowatts for a system. So you have your IT rack enclosure, your in-row cooling, your battery backup, everything is designed in this system. So the next is what we call the smart mode. This is having your data center in the standard 20 feet or 40 feet containers. You know, because of shipment, the standard container, the 20 feet and 40 feet has been designed. So we build data center within this space. So for ease of shipment. So everything you need for your data center compute contain this. From what you're seeing now, you can see the condensers for the cooling, the hangouts of it, everything is inside. So when you come to site, when you have your plant, you drop this and everything will be set up. So the only thing you need is to have your plant, just the basement where this is going to be dropped. you have your power, the raw power, drop into this, and your home and drive. Everything is done. So, and this goes a long way to reduce the gestation period of you having a typical data center deployment. So, and this can range from 16 to 28 racks based on the standard format. So, non-standard format are available, but just the one I just want to highlight the standard one that can easily be deployed at a short time. So, and the density can go from 30 to 400 kilowatts. So, what are the benefits of what I have shared earlier? So, with this, since it's a standard solution, it's already pre-designed, tested from factory. So, when you make your requirements, all you just need, they put the pieces in place and they send you. So, we'll have a short timeline to deploy. Then you don't oversize. You only request for what you need. So, like I mentioned earlier, you don't need to tie down your capital because you are looking at considering the future of what you're going to need. So, it's designed as per need. So, if you are growing that need, just make a request for another one that can be grown vertically or horizontally. So, it's modular scalable. So, you can always, for relocation, it makes it easy. So, let's say today you put it on a particular base station, maybe that requires a need, and tomorrow, maybe there's no longer a need. You can just take it off and go and install it in a new place that it will be required. Also, it secures. It comes with a specialized security system that keep everything in check and prevent undue access to the system components that are in the system. So, and also it's the final is plug and play. So you don't need to do more. Just get your raw power and green space, and this is running. So now let's go back to see what we are seeing, the upside we are seeing. You know, the GPUs and the NPUs that we have, they don't behave like the regular IT infrastructure system will have, or the servers will have in the past. Now, for instance, if you design your infrastructure and you notice the AI profile, it can jump from idleness to over 150 capacity. So let's say, for instance, you have a 20 kilowatts UPS in place, and over time for, let's say, maybe 20 hours out of the 24 hours of a day, you can see this running below 50%. All of a sudden, it will surge beyond this to go over 150. It then means the regular system we have cannot accommodate this specialized range of AI loads. So you need to have a specialized system that can adapt. For instance, if you have a UPS system, you have an external backup system. So whenever there's this surge, it can take power from the backup to assist what the capacity of the UPS you have. So the new UPS infrastructure we're designing is now tailored and tested in factory to accommodate this upsurge we're seeing on AI load. So also you can see this will impact every part of the powertrain. So if you look at from your utility power, your transformers, backup power, all this surge can have a great impact across board. For instance, this quick oversurge and coming that can cause a thermal cyclone on your switches or changeover switch and everything. So everything needs to be redesigned to expect this kind of surge and idleness. So to accommodate what's the AI requirements. So the design we have today are putting this together to address all the concerns. And from one of we are seeing today that based on the AI requirements, the IT infrastructure is no longer separate. Maybe you have a server, you have a UPS, you have a cooling. So the system are now coming integrated. So we are seeing where all the requirements for computing are coming together. So for instance, the NVIDIA is designing a chip. Now they are talking to Vertiv. Vertiv will design the specialized cooling for that chip that requires high capacity. So they're talking to Vertiv for the UPS that can accommodate. So when they are bringing the system down, so they're bringing a holistic system. So for instance, if they want to run a particular AI application, they say, this is the infrastructure you need. So power, cooling, and the compute has already been integrated. So you have one solution. So the AI is converging IT infrastructure together now. So like I mentioned earlier, so when you rejig your powertrain, you need to put in things that can address all this concern, like they say the battery energy storage system. So in the battery energy system, when you have this can be connected from right from the utility source, so that anytime there's a demand beyond what is available, to compensate that, you take the extra power from the battery energy storage system. So now we see in the past, the norm is 5 to 15 kilowatts per rack. That's as of 2022 for the traditional data center, and it's going to also, like, maybe for high density applications, you can see 20 to 50 kilowatts. But today we are seeing over 300 to 500 kilowatts per rack. And when you see this happen, you know that the traditional thing we have, it can no longer work. One of the things I normally say, so in as much as it's the hard truth, is that most of the infrastructure we have today in Nigeria, for instance, are not designed to run AI. So we need to rejig our infrastructure so to accommodate the AI surge. And the AI we are talking about is not what we are seeing today, large language models and co. We are seeing bringing AI home, having AI automate our system, having maybe autonomous traffic control system. This is what I call AI, because we are having it, touching it. It's for us. It's no longer maybe when we want to do AI. It depends. ChatGPT will give you one complex that is computed outside there. So let's tailor it to address our common needs in the country. That is when we now can say that we have AI in our country. So for just to show for our cooling system, we normally have the perimeter cooling, the row-based cooling, and these are technologies that are done for traditional system. But for AI, the only thing we need to look at is the liquid cooling. Liquid cooling is the only thing that can assist to manage the kind of enormous heat being generated by this AI chip that keep uploading every day. So now on the liquid cooling, just I want to retrace some of the designs we have on the liquid cooling. We have direct to chip liquid cooling, where you have the servers will have a cold plate at the back. So you pass cold water to take out the heat, transfer to the hot, and go to the CDU and cool it back and send. So we'll have another one, which is the rear door heat exchange. So for your existing installations, instead of junking that, we have a clean unit that can sit directly at the back of your existing racks to directly remove the hot airs from the existing racks, and then cool it using your traditional chiller system and send back the cold air. So the highest one, or the most effective one, which is what is coming out, is what we call the immense cooling. Immense cooling is when you have your servers being immense in a liquid. When this is liquid, is not, it's a fluid, not water. So just don't get me wrong, when I say liquid there, you're thinking about water. So the servers has been designed, and you drop your server inside the liquid. So on the main screen on my screen, you can see how it looks like a freezer that has fluid inside. The servers are dropped inside. So also, based on this trend that is happening, where all the computers are happening, Vertiv is introducing a 360 AI, where all these infrastructures are coming together. So from onset, all the AI requirement infrastructure are pre-engineered, validated, and designed. So we have those solutions built to address specific needs. So instead of bringing isolated infrastructure, also we are now having a converged infrastructure that addresses the needs of AI. So with this 360 AI, we'll have a reduced deployment time up to 50%, and solutions are designed per scale for deployment, and it can always scale as you go. Then it's flexible and customized. It can be customized to a particular need. Then we'll have the power and the cooling are done together, and we'll have a very good support services for it. So all that we are deploying, we'll have ready-hand resource to support all this high-scale infrastructure system. So going just a little bit to show, Vertiv is an infrastructure company. We specialize in the design of data center, communication networks, commercial and industrial application. So, and we support today growing mobile and cloud computing markets. And we are the industrial leaders in innovations when it's related to data center. So your vision is our passion. So with this, I come to the end of my solution, infrastructure solution. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Okechi. I think that was a very very interesting, information-rich presentation. And I'm happy at some of the things you had also talked about. We had just last week, we're in AfricaCom, and we spoke. I was on a panel. One of the things we spoke about in the data center panel was how data centers of the future have to evolve and scale. We even actually highlighted how in Nigeria we started with this 5 kilowatt to the rack. And currently, we're already seeing triple digits requests. Happy to see that you also mentioned it. And then someone mentioned to me, I think it was Benga DBG, who mentioned that he went to an NVIDIA factory and he noticed how the new racks are more compact. They are big, but they are not the way our traditional racks now have been. You can have different racks in different places around and they're loosely connected. The racks of the future are going to be in one place. And then you now have to, obviously, you have to look at considerations around cooling for those ones, around power and so on. And I'm happy that Okechi mentioned this. We have now reached the most anticipated session, and I think for me, I'm really excited to introduce this next this panel, our keynote panel. And it comes beautifully on the heels of last week's AfricaCom in Cape Town, where AI was possibly the most dominant theme that we had there. We had Strive Masiwa of Cassava Tech announced big AI factories across Africa. They announced partnership with NVIDIA, Google, and Anthropic. We had other operators who also spoke about their AI. There was a lot of AI posturing and AI capabilities, right? And then we also had the opportunity to speak with various representatives from across the world on our panel and also just quick chats. And one key question I was asking them is Africa truly ready for AI? And what is required to move the needle? And I'm pleased to welcome the speakers on our keynote panel who have tremendous AI experience. If we put all the experience in AI together, it's comforting to Africa, it's comforting to Nigeria that we have this much expertise. And then we believe that they will do great justice to this topic. And I'm very privileged to introduce Dr. Coker, who will be moderating this very distinguished panel. Dr. Coker is Chief Executive Officer, Open Access Data Centers. And then he will be joined by Bukola Ajayi, General Manager, Architecture and Enterprise IT at MTN Nigeria. Kendall Ananyi, Founder and Chief Executive Officer at Tizeti Networks. Oladejo Olawumi, Director, IT Infrastructure Solutions, National Information Technology Development Agency, Nigeria. Mike Salem, Vice President and Chief Information Security Officer, and also the Group Head of Artificial Intelligence, IHS Towers. Wilson Eigbadon, Regional Manager, Vertiv. Engineer Babagana Digima, Head Cybersecurity and Internet Governance, Nigerian Communications Commission. And Dotun Adeoye, Co-Founder, AI in Nigeria. That said, I hand over to Dr. Ayotunde Coker, who will do us the honors of this panel. Over to you, Doctor.
Hello, good day, everyone, and wherever you are in the world. I'm still hanging over from AfricaCom last week. I had a very good event last night in Cape Town, which was the launch of the 2Africa cable by Meta. And it was very nice. It was a bit like, a family reunion across the continent of a lot of what's gone into, 2Africa, of which WIOC, the group company of which OADC is part of, as a consortium partner. So I'm on my way home now, but taking this call from the lounge at Johannesburg Airport, and I wish we could have a lounge like this where you could have a cubicle in our airports, other places in Africa. Anyway, moving on. Coming in from AfricaCom last week, I was part of, I guess I forgot to do the all protocols observed. When I said hello everyone, good day, I would stand on existing protocols. I always forget for some reason. I mean, as a Nigerian, how could I forget? So I sat on a panel, World Bank Group, on the Monday last week, the Africa Data Center Associations co-hosted a workshop, a whole day's conference. Temitope was there, very well attended from across Africa. And we talked about a whole range of things. And I think my reason for highlighting that is it brought together what's happening across Africa around the readiness for AI, looking at connectivity, looking at data centers, and looking at energy. Those three things always come together around digital infrastructure, which is a big deal for AI. How do we, reconcile across those three things? Great event. Then on the Wednesday afternoon, I was on a panel, and you'll see some information about that panel on LinkedIn and so on. And the panel was around the launch of a document, and I've asked the Hyperscalers team to share. I couldn't quite find the link because it's on the World Bank's website. And what it was the launch of the report by the World Bank called the Digital Progress and Trends Report 2025, DPTR, Trends Report 2025. And we had discussions broadly around about what's happening around the investments by the World Bank. In this, you may have heard about the Project Bridge, of which the World Bank is an investor. It's public now, and it's a lot happening there. Africa Development Bank, that's being championed by the minister, and there's a lot of the change in thinking is that these interventions by the World Bank really is to enable private sector and create the demand side to enable digital infrastructure to be built in Africa around the AI context. So I just wanted to highlight that before we go into the panel. And interestingly, there were 4 C's that were highlighted that's critical. One is connectivity, that's reliable, high quality broadband, and sustainable energy, that puts the energy into the connectivity. Compute, which is affordable and accessible high performance computing. Context, which is the context of what we talk about. LLMs, are they in the right context for Africa? Quality data and content, as EVC highlighted to us earlier on, that's appropriate for local context. And competency, the skilled people. And my view is in Africa, we've got a very, very young talent pool and fantastic source of creating amazing sources of content and talent. So I always say it depends on leadership context. So those are the 4 C's they talked about. But then one of the colleagues on the panel then brought another one, collaboration. And then, of course, we said, well, cash is another interesting C. So I really I suggest to everyone, look out for the report. And I'll try and share a copy, actually, I have sort of here, to make it available to the team, because it's open access anyway, on the World Bank Group website. That's what they've said. So I wish I had done that before now. The idea just came to me while I was listening to the presentations. And finally, to simplify it, I say there are 3 parts of AI digital infrastructure on top of what we've talked about. One is the back end, which is where you have the LLMs, the big data centers, big infrastructure and data centers all over the world. It tends to be less latency sensitive. your knowledge in your mind is not latency sensitive. It's the access of it and the deployment of it in interaction that's latency sensitive. So you have, and the middle bit, which is the inference layer. Now that is what's really interesting for Africa, what we put into our data centers in Africa, which will also be the ones that will use the Vertiv technologies that we've just seen. And it's good to see that within Nigeria, Vertiv, we do have that interesting context for me if as a data center operator. Now, the medium learning models and the small learning models are what brings that backend into context in the Africa data centers that we're building. And then there's the front end, to simplify it even more, which is where you have agentic AI, which is more relevant now. And the middle bit and the front end bit I talk about, agentic AI could be anything using machine to machine, IoT, and a whole range of things. Mobile access, let's just call it embedded front-end agentic, which goes into your apps you use. We now start to see that with WhatsApp, and a lot of this is already happening and impacting our lives. However, we have to optimize it for Africa, and we have to embed especially that middle bit and the front end for Africa. So that's how it's been shaping up. So without much further ado, therefore, I would like to just have a comment from each of the panelists as listed out. We know you, right? But your role in the context of this discussion of AI briefly, and then we'll go into some of the other follow-up questions. I did that because I was given the privilege, I guess, or the leeway to do a opening remarks by the moderator. So here we go. I'll start with Bukola for comment. Okay. Brief one, and then we'll go into.
All right. Good morning, everyone.
Nice to see you.
Good morning once again. Nice, and thank you for the opportunity to join this panel. I'm Bukola Ajayi. I lead architecture and engineering for MTN, and I lead the AI engineering for MTN. Working with our partners, we just launched a data center. And one of the things we are doing is to make sure that that data center is AI ready. MTN being the largest telco in Nigeria, AI for us is an enabler, and we have ingrained it into everything we do. We are currently testing a lot of models that's going to change the way we deliver experience to our customers. And this cuts across all the lines of businesses that we offer, whether on the GSM side, on the enterprise side, or on the cloud side. I'm very glad to be here. Thank you.
Fantastic. Thanks, Bukola. I'll use first names if you permit me. And so we move forward on that basis. Kendall, great to see you here. Intro, please.
Hi, everyone. My name is Kendall Ananyi. I'm one of the founders of Tizeti. Tizeti offers unlimited internet across all the regions in Nigeria and certain regions in Ghana. For us, we just recently moved all of our data. Because we've been in business for 13 years, we're one of the first people to start off using all our data in AWS. We recently migrated that back to Nigeria into the Equinix data center, and we've been using AI a lot, first in our customer service and across our payment platforms, and even our customers too. So when they call into Tizeti customer service now, depending on the load of the customer agents, you can actually talk to a customer agent that's an AI. We're also, same thing with our payments too. We use that to speed up our payments process. And we're also building out fiber to ensure that people can have low latency solutions when doing any type of inference with AI. Thank you.
Great. Thanks very much, Kendall. And to Oladejo now.
Thank you. Good morning, all. So my name is Oladejo Olawumi. I work with the National Information Technology Development Agency, NITDA. One of our mandates in NITDA is regulation of the IT sector of Nigeria. So what we have tried to do in relation to the subjects we're discussing today is to drive the standards that will govern the safe and transparent and fair use of AI. And in doing that, we have developed the national AI strategy, which we'll be discussing further in the discussion. So those are part of the things we are doing in relation to the discussion today, which is part of our mandate of creating legal frameworks for the IT sector in Nigeria. Thank you, and you're all welcome.
Thanks very much, Oladejo. Now to Mike.
Yes, hello. Thanks for having me, Doctor and panels. Mike Salem, and I'm the Chief Information Security Officer at IHS, as well as the Group Head for AI. And from an AI perspective at IHS, there's really two things here. One is the practical use of it, and we have done a lot of really successful use cases at the company. But as it relates to this discussion, we're just not an infrastructure company. We're really, when you think about it, we're a power company because of the grid. So we have all these generators and what have you. So we're trying to see how can we use our expertise and massive amount of data when it comes to power consumption, power fuel movement, and what have you. So practically all the things that the future data center needs to power up. We have a lot of information that we're trying to see how we could harvest it through AI.
That's fantastic. Thanks very much. I'll now go to Okechi. You introduce yourself in Vertiv. So if you don't mind, you did a presentation, right? So I think we've got the context of that, a fantastic presentation on the technologies. Unless you want to add anything else to that.
So I think it's Wilson who will be on the panel. Wilson, please confirm that. Is it you on the panel or Okechi?
Yes, it's Wilson. Me. Yeah.
Okay.
Oh,
Wilson,
there you go, Wilson.
please.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes.
Go ahead.
Okay. Good morning, everybody. My name is Wilson Eigbadon, from Vertiv, Nigeria. From our own standpoint as Vertiv, we are an infrastructure company enabling the data centers and all the solutions, especially as my colleague Okechi has highlighted in his presentation at the beginning of this. For Vertiv, we are well positioned as the AI drive, the AI bug that has beaten the world currently and it's coming down Africa. We are well positioned to support our partners and every data center operator and telecoms operators within the country to ensure that they achieve their goals, especially when we look at the facilities we have currently in Africa. Of course, you don't want to junk the entire facility you have because you want to go into liquid cooling or you want to do. So we have solutions around rear heat door exchangers, rear door heat exchangers, where you can incorporate your existing cooling units. Because basically, when we talk about AI, we're talking about the IT loads using the GPUs and all of that. So you see computers become so huge, so large, and heat is generated. And of course, one of the primary things that must be done is to carry those heat out of the data centers. And we're talking to a couple of customers in Nigeria. They're looking at how to integrate their current data centers with customers coming with high capacity loads, how they can integrate our solutions into their existing cooling solutions. And that is possible looking at what my colleague has presented earlier. So in Vertiv, we are well positioned. We have partnered with NVIDIA. We have Vertiv has invested in some major cooling companies around the United States and Europe to ensure that these solutions, we are one step ahead of others in terms of providing solutions. So for Nigeria and Africa as a whole, Vertiv is well ready, infrastructure-wise, to support this AI drive. And I think that's it from my side for now. Thank you.
Okay, thanks a lot, Wilson. And Engineer Babagana, welcome, you're on mute.
Thank you very much, Dr. Coker. Good morning, everyone. My name is Engineer Babagana Digima. I'm the head of Cybersecurity and Internet Governance Department of the Nigerian Communications Commission. The Communications Commission, as the regulator for the telecoms industry, of course, oversees virtually everything, all the operators and service providers that actually move the AI trend. So in that regard, it's not out of place that we look at AI from both regulatory perspective as well as from security and governance angles. So for that reason, I think it's important that we are here, and it's also important that we make our contribution, especially looking at the ethics around AI, the use cases, how it will impact services and our service providers as well as our consumers in Nigeria. So thank you very much.
Excellent. Thank you very much. And I think finally, Dotun, AI in Nigeria.
Hi, good morning. Yeah, good morning. So my name is Dotun Adeoye. I'm one of the co-founders of AI in Nigeria. AI in Nigeria is intentionally named as that because our primary focus is to adapt AI for Nigeria, orchestrating the ecosystem by different means. As it stands today, we are the largest, AI advisory and foundation. We are currently in 40 locations in 25 states, in all the 6 geopolitical zones. And we're doing a lot of work in the private arm of our business because we have the foundation, which is non-profit, and the limited company. And it's interesting that we're talking about AI readiness because this is one of the first things we do when we engage with potential customers, looking at different areas, which I'll be talking about later. We do have 8 pillars. And the whole essence of it is before you go into AI, you need to count the cost. You need to understand that you are ready. And infrastructure is always one of the key areas. And it's also good to see some of the organizations we have engaged with, like NITDA, in our landscape reports in the last 2 years. Also, we've had things to do with NCC and some of the other organizations. So I'm here today to just talk about the ecosystem view, what AI in Nigeria knows, some of the questions to be able to sort of get feedback from our nationwide view, and what to see in terms of the readiness in the telco sector and even beyond. Thank you.
Fantastic. Okay, thank you very much. Going into the aspect of AI and what we've talked about in terms of our readiness, right? From the NITDA point of view, we talked about the national IT policy and strategy. Actually, before I go into that, one thing I wanted to actually highlight also from that World Bank report, interesting insight they had. If you look at ChatGPT traffic by country, March 2024, there's a color-coded thing across countries across the world. Dark blue being the number of traffic ChatGPT visits. Nigeria, Egypt, and South Africa are actually very dark blue as compared with the US, Brazil, Canada, and so on, India. China is actually not that dark blue, for instance, but it's ChatGPT. However, which is a lot of our problems in Africa, the per capita problem. It's like internet access isn't that expensive, but affordability is a problem. Right? It's actually quite light blue. So per capita of number of people, we're not that high, but in terms of total, we're up there with some of the big countries in the world. Now, looking at it from the NITDA point of view and national policy and strategy, how are you seeing this play out? The AI is compute hungry. We've got to get ourselves readiness in lots of different dimensions. How do you see this playing out from the NITDA point of view, Oladejo?
Okay, thank you very much. Like you just alluded to the statistics now, we'll see that there's a huge market here in Nigeria, considering our population, the demography of those that are actively trying to make use of AI in Nigeria. So I will just speak on the side of that. I know there are quite a number of the panelists that are going to speak on the infrastructure. And they have been mentioning things about getting our infrastructure ready for AI. So what we are doing on the part of the government, NITDA so far is to ensure that we have that, the regulation that backs the use of AI in Nigeria. Because as you will agree with me, AI needs to be like, we don't want to use the word regulation too much because it's not as if we want to stifle the environment there, the sector, but it needs to actually be regulated. For want of another word to use, regulated, because we have to ensure the ethics behind it. We have to ensure the transparency, the fairness, and even the human well-being behind all this, because, and then our culture also, because like one of the speakers mentioned earlier, the LLMs we are talking about, how much of it is actually owned by us? How much of it do we actually own? What sovereignty do you have over those LLMs? So these are the kind of things that kind of thoughts that went into the development of the national AI strategy. And I think some of our panelists here were part of the conversation, and those that actually helped in developing that AI strategy. We had a whole lot of experts come from all over the world. They came here to Abuja, they sat over some weeks, and they actually developed that AI, national AI strategy. And some of the objectives, basic objectives, to ensure that we realize that AI is a tool for economic growth. We realize that it is needed for social development and inclusion, and also for technological advancement. So we know that we have to have our own homegrown LLM, because sometimes we go, even here in the agency, we try to do some little research, in top management, and we did a prompt. It didn't bring out what we wanted because it was something about, something about Abuja here in Nigeria. We could not get it. So what we're trying to do is to ensure that we have the guidance, the rules, the regulations that actually bring out the best for us as a country on AI. And the strategy is based on some particular, about 5 pillars. One is on building a foundational AI infrastructure. It has to do with the infrastructure, the GPUs, the power, sustainable. Also, there's a pillar on building and sustaining a world-class AI ecosystem. That is to say that we need to have a way of building capacity in developing and maintaining our own AI, the academia, the industry, government. What do we have to do to ensure that we maintain that level of, it's about data, that level of relevant data in our LLMs. Another pillar is accelerating the AI adoption. Okay. And one of the other pillars is ensuring responsible and ethical AI development. It's very important, like I mentioned earlier, the issue of ethics, particularly when we consider our culture. There are some things our culture might or might not permit. Then another major pillar is developing a robust AI governance framework. So these are some of the things we've considered, and we, at the back of our mind, we have that issue of digital sovereignty at the back of our minds, and also data privacy at the back of our minds. So these are some of the things we are looking at NITDA that made us come up with the other stakeholders to develop the national AI strategy. Thank you.
Fantastic. So we've got the five pillars, right? Dotun mentioned 8 pillars. I wonder what the 8 pillars are. But Oladejo, one thing I wanted to highlight actually is that the approach that was taken to this strategy, I've heard Honorable Minister talk about it, was very, very clever, right? Can you highlight, just for the audience, you went and looked at X number of Nigerian or Africa AI together, whittled it down, got them. It was really quite a robust process, right?
Yes, it was. So it was a multi-stakeholder approach to it, and we had those for the Nigerians from the diaspora, actually, from about 4 different continents, and then from different sectors, the academia, government, industry. They were all there, and they all came together with their own ideas, most especially the academia, to see, okay, how do we actually build these LLMs, and how do we drive the continuous building of the LLMs in Nigeria? And some of the implementation that the Honorable Minister has actually ensured that he driven by him so far is to see how we can have that local LLM in Nigeria. And this is a major thing he has done so far. So you see that the multi-stakeholder approach is critical, because we don't want a situation whereby some groups will now, at the end of the day, feel left out because of the fairness we're talking about in this AI strategy. Is very key. Those are main key things in when we are discussing about AI. The privacy also, and then the transparency. So everything about AI is meant to be transparent, to see that everybody is involved in the building up of the strategy. And this is what we did, and to ensure we came about with the strategy so far. We also considered things like the risk involved, because we cannot hide from the fact that there are some particular risks involved. For example, we could talk about data breaches and the maybe slow adoption, and then the still issues of ethics also. So issues of ethics were slow adoption, data breaches were considered, and then mitigation. The mitigation efforts were considered also in this strategy. It's actually a broad, it's an encompassing strategy, and I think it's actually considered a lot of things and areas that need to be considered when we are talking about AI, and the regulation that's needed to drive it. And it also mentioned things on infrastructure, how we can actually build and develop our own infrastructure. Like one of the speakers mentioned earlier, we have the we have data centers in Nigeria, but are they really ready for AI? That is the question. So things like that were considered in the strategy. Thank you.
Okay. Great one, thanks. Actually, you just prompted me, and I was thinking maybe LLM now becomes local language models, for us in Nigeria. But people have also been talking about smaller language models that we use to complement the global large language models as well. One thing also is that there's interesting distinction between regulation, and I think NCC just stands out as one of those regulators that are seen to be progressive in regulation. But the other aspect of it is also supervision. Yeah, supervision, and getting that balance between regulation and supervision. And I think you are indicating something similar to that. But Dotun, you talked about 8 pillars. So I want to see how it's different from the 5 pillars, where we're talking about the overall picture as you see it from the AI point of view.
Thank you. I think what we normally focus on is ensuring that any organization, be it in the private or public sector, understand, in a broader sense, the total cost of ownership, be it from, in different elements of resourcing. So the first thing is, when you are going on the journey of adopting AI, you need to kind of first understand whether the leadership have a broad understanding of AI, because you need executive buy-in. And if executives are not buying in, it's the euphoria or the excitement is going to be short-lived. So that's the first thing we kind of look at when we're going through these pillars. Then there's a national thing we always say in business that we don't have data in Nigeria. But before you get there, we then ask the question: how ready is your data for AI? Because we have structured, semi-structured, and unstructured data. So what format is your data actually ready for AI? So we look at that, and then the big thing also is change management and the communication of change, which some organizations are not always, they kind of overlook it in transformation in relation to technology. Digital transformation has been part of digital transformation for about 26 years now, and I have seen in different continents how this is one of the areas where certain organizations drop the ball. They may do it very well at the beginning, but at a point, they drop the ball. So change management and change communication is one we ask the question about, how is this going to be handled as you are adopting AI, not just at the beginning, but all through the period. If it's going to be a 12-month, 24-month, and then when it gets to BAU and when you're doing continuous improvement, how does that work? So there is a continuous alignment with the business objective, and that's communicated across the different groups. Then we look at, as you are beginning to go into the world of AI, how do you regulate it? How do you ensure that bias doesn't come into what you are doing inherently by, as a good example is, if you're going to be using APIs from OpenAI as an example, or using APIs from other sources, do you have expertise within the organization to actually query and analyze the APIs to ensure that there are not biases that are inherent in terms of our culture? And I think, my colleague from NITDA, Oladejo, I think you said that, it's one of the things that the National AI Strategy also sort of looked at. And this is a big thing, because if you think about it, the majority of the solutions that are being built for AI currently today, a lot of organizations use APIs and ready-made solutions from the West, which most of the time, most of these solutions or APIs don't understand our culture. And then you don't expect it to, because it wasn't built with our culture in mind. That's the reality. So we spend a bit of time on this with organizations, and then we come to this area in terms of the technology infrastructure, because a lot of other organizations are excited about AI, but they don't understand how much money it would take. I don't want to say expensive, but ultimately it could be if you don't understand the total cost. Because, and I think most sponsors and executives look at AI initially from the frame of the engagement with ChatGPT or Copilot and how it's been able to serve them, and looking at the licensing model, not understanding that when you're going into a large-scale rollout, it goes way beyond that. Then we kind of then begin to look at, how you are able to have a sandbox, experimentation for R&D, have a safe space, infrastructure and experimentation where you're able to do that, and be able to actually see in a safe space what good looks like. And then ultimately, we look at skills and talent, because there was a white paper about the continent having less than 500 practitioner level experienced leaders in the area of AI, not long ago, by one of the top consultancy. And given the engagement and the experience that I have within the AI space over, since 2014, I noticed that quite a lot of the experienced people are not resident on the continent, given the fact that, it's not a lot of us, and what is with the kind of remuneration they'll be asking for, certain organizations may not be prepared for it. So that is another big thing. So what is the plan for the organization in terms of talent development, in terms of the skills development as well? And then ultimately, what is the long-term goal in terms of scaling and integrating the AI development or AI solutions that's going to be created? So these are the areas we look at. And it takes a bit of time, because I can go through these 8 pillars. You need to engage with different stakeholder groups across the organization. And even before we start looking at the pillars, one of the key things we ensure is we have a very clear understanding about the stakeholder groups that will be impacted, and ensure that while we're going through these pillars, we clearly map it out so that no one is left behind. And while you are even trying to do this, going through these pillars, you are not kind of blindsiding certain important stakeholder groups or stakeholder, individuals, and you just kind of make the whole process pointless. So these are the 8 pillars. I've kind of gone through them, not chronologically, but these are the areas we touch. And
yeah,
thank you.
Okay, basically, in summary, it's very, very multifaceted. And we are going on a journey that has so many aspects to it. But it has to be all underpinned by a whole range of things around infrastructure. And when we talk about that data center, energy, connectivity bit, there is underpinning regulation and supervision as well. That has to be progressive. Yeah, progressive, for want of a better term. So if we look at that connectivity piece now, Timmy Topper, you really put together a great panel because we have some good overlaps with respect to regulation, connectivity, and so on. Right? Do we really have that connectivity backbone? I know we can look for best enough, but do we have good enough, or are we on the right journey? Kendall, what are you seeing in terms of that journey? And I'll also use that as later a segue to Mike in terms of what, the infrastructure you're putting out there, if it's able to support what we need. I'll start with Kendall.
So first part we got right in all of this was our subsea capacity coming into the continent. So that was good. There's a myriad of cables, Equano, WAX to Africa, right? Main one, Glow one. So that aspect is good. So even though the large models today are primarily in the US and Europe, right? We have access to those models, right? When we're doing inference, which is when we're accessing information via ChatGPT and the rest of that. But where we still need a little bit more work is taking the capacity from the coast where it is to the end users all over the different locations in Nigeria, right? The major cities kind of connected a little bit, right? But once you leave the capital cities, then your internet capacity is not as great, right? But it's good. You mentioned Project Bridge. That would help a lot to evacuate all of those capacity, right, into the end users. Then on the data center side, also great progress. So from the subsea side, on the data center side, there's a lot of data centers coming up and even expansions too. If you look at one of the panelists talked about MTN's data center, they did have that for their operations, but they're going past that to be able for people to use them. Same thing with us. I said we started off, all of our data was in AWS. We've now brought it back home. And bringing it back home has opened up a lot of opportunities for us, because now the next level of AI, which is actually making things more relevant, if I can use the term, you mentioned local language models, can only happen if you have your data, if you have the models here and you're training it with data that's relevant to us in Nigeria. Now, the next aspect which we really need to ramp up is fiber to the homes and to the businesses, because a lot of that we leapfrog. So we got a lot of agility by using wireless, which is good. We leapfrogged all of that, but now we have to go back now and actually now put in all the cables that is needed, right, and all the permitting that goes with that. Once we're able to do that, then edge AI inference will come online, because then we have all our towers connected at wherever they are. And so we can have models that have lower parameters, which again, smaller language models sitting at all of our towers, right? And so it's good enough you can have it at the data center, but once you want to bring it closer so that it's faster and people can use it to do more real-time things, because down the road, we're also going to have driverless cars in Africa, right? Those things need real-time inference, right? Real-time IoTs, real-time sensors. And so having this distributed approach will be good. But then that brings us with another problem, which we haven't quite solved there, which is the power problem. So AI is a guzzler on its own, right? Right. And then when you're thinking about, okay, with data centers, maybe the problem is solved. When you're now moving closer to the user, you now have hundreds of thousands of towers that need to be powered and have additional capacity. So for if I look at Tizeti's model, which is a solar powered model, it works if you're not putting a GPU at each of our towers. When you're not putting a GPU, you now have to think about power a little bit more, right? So there's more upgrades that are going to come and happen in the power part, which would help. Again, this is infrastructure we're talking about. So not only thinking about, oh, I have GPUs, you have to also think about the power aspect of it. Then we now have the problem where we still have a ton of microwave backhauls and wireless backhauls, right? And which is, again, some of them are used to back up where we have fiber, but we now have to upgrade most of our wireless backhaul infrastructure so that it's all cable there. Then same thing, one of the problems we've faced is vandalization. So how do we keep all of this infrastructure safe, right? It's okay when you just have routers. Now you're talking about expensive NVIDIA GPUs at those locations. So it might not be useful to the person coming to vandalize it, but you have to keep it there. Then even the fiber you're building too. I think I'll use our Nigerian way to frame it is sometimes you build fiber to a location, then you have a fiber cut, then you're taking one step forward, one kilometer of fiber forward, then you go back and you're then impacted right at your close to your data source of your data center. Then you have to fix that whole point in time. The end users are at their home, they're trying to do anything with ChatGPT using WhatsApp, right? They can't do that because they have an outage. And so that actually slows out the deployment too. And then last part will be the last part, which you called the front end, which is agentic AI. I think that's where we generally, when we talk about the startup ecosystem in Nigeria, I know most of the startups are all getting MCP servers. They're doing all of that stuff. Their AI, their APIs are already using some of the features. I explained how we're using it in our customer service and our payment solution. So that one, the future is bright with that one. I know that will unlock a lot of things with us, but we now have to look at the into the future, right? Because a lot of white collar jobs are going to go away ultimately, slowly but ultimately. And so we as a continent, we now need to think about what kind of skills that we need in this world. Right? So before it was, oh, I just want to be a software developer, or I just want to be an accountant and all of that. We now have to think about more physical skills, right? Which is where Africa has shines because labor is cheaper. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. I'll segue that. I'll segue to Mike on that, around what you're seeing with the connectivity fabric. Are we able to evacuate enough out there? How are you seeing those changes now affecting the industry and the actions you take?
Right, and I'll build on Kendall's points because they're very important. I don't think connectivity is going to be the major issue in Africa or Nigeria. Let me talk about Nigeria in particular. Connectivity overall is pretty good, except maybe some rural areas and what have you. That is something that is solvable. I mean, we know how to do this. It's nothing, there's no Pandora box over here. The real problem, or the real challenge, I shouldn't say, the real challenge is the power. I mean, these infrastructures, there are data centers in Nigeria, you could advance them, but we're going to get to a point where we know where that hard wall is, the power. And, coming from a IT and cybersecurity background, the models need to be in Africa or in Nigeria or wherever prospective country is, for many reasons. Obviously, for the what's been discussed a minute ago, the localization and the speed, but there's also privacy laws around the world that this has to be addressed. It's going to be a challenge to excel in AI if you have a privacy issues. It's just going to pull you, especially AI, more than IT, because it pulls from so many sources, and it's a complex issue when it comes to privacy. So the answer, really, data centers have to be in Africa. Now we're back to power at this point of time. So the issue obviously is the grid and the grid, and reliability and what have you. So that just has to be resolved. Now, there are small micro, let's call it grid generators, if you want to call them grid, that are doing fine for our power. They run our towers and everything's great, but we're living in a different place, different times. It's just suddenly dawned on us now, like we moved into a different planet or something, and we have AI, and whatever used to work might not work, and what have you. So looking forward on this, Dr. Ian and panelists, I believe there are going to be 3 stages for this power issue here: a near one, a medium, and a long term. Now, in the near term one, what we have might be fine to anchor small data centers, edge sites. They will do. You could get bigger generators, solar, a combination, and what have you. However, over the medium term, we'll probably have to see, or we'll see, if I have to predict, a more purpose-built, energy-smart AI hubs, where renewable and abundant energy is strong. It might be an evolution of what we have. It might not just be something crazy advanced or what have you, but they're purpose-built. So they might be bigger and what have you, and they're designed for that. On the long term, this is all non-sustainable. I mean, they're going to continue to need more power, these data centers. I think we're just seeing the tip of the iceberg at this point of time. So things that needs to be looked into in the future is advanced storages, even possibly nuclear reactors, but that's a policy and governmental matter at this point of time. There are a lot of coastal areas and rivers and lakes in Africa and in Nigeria. Maybe that needs to be utilized. A point was mentioned a few minutes or probably about an hour ago that is bringing a lot of jobs, AI, to Africa. And I completely believe in this. There's a great talent, in my opinion, in Africa and in Nigeria. But it's not just about AI. It's going to bring more talent in to build. And I think that's a big market, even here in the United States, is being addressed. And that is the power storage and power generation. So there's a great opportunity for the entrepreneurs in Africa and Nigeria to look into that. And that's going to be a very big topic, very big job market in the whole world, for that matter.
Great, thanks. There's some things starting to push towards power away from connectivity. It's an issue where it's something we know about. We're able to get on and do it. There are things in place. And it's about also meaningful broadband and the penetration. But just before we go into that, Engineer Babagana, your camera is also not sure if you're available immediately. From the sort of regulatory point of view, smart regulation, and so what do you add to what we've touched on around connectivity? Before I then move on to the power question that seems to be coming up now constantly.
Thank you very much, Dr. Coker. I think, like you've mentioned a lot about the connectivity, it's of course the backbone of AI, of whatever we do in terms of AI. So it's critical that we address those areas. Of course, the infrastructure we have on ground, in a lot of ways, yes, some will be sufficient or adequate, but maybe not sufficient, and some will actually be adequate. And like the first speaker has mentioned, we have enough submarine capacity, for example, at the coast. But then when it comes to fiber, for instance, especially access, at the access level, I think we still have a lot to be done. If you look at the whole of Nigeria, we're talking maybe 65,000 kilometers of fiber, which, to be honest, is grossly inadequate. But then effort is being made by, for example, the arrangement by the Honorable Minister about the 90,000 kilometers of fiber and so on. Again, other efforts that we're doing, of course, the power issue is out there as well. But for us, I think what we need to really pay attention to when it comes to AI, the infrastructure is a major part. We're glad that we have a lot of partners, and the way we're going, I think, is the right way for the private sector to actually drive those aspects, and for government to provide the policy frameworks and, of course, the support that is needed, which is globally the best practice. We've seen Europe, for example, with gigafactories that they are pushing. There's something that government is putting some form of support, but it's actually the private investors and companies that are really providing the drive and the leadership. So it's something that we should also be doing here in Nigeria. And I'm glad, of course, a lot of the data centers, a lot of the fiber infrastructure, the switching, and so on, is all in private hands. And this is, of course, also one of the key things that the regulation of the telecoms market has done. And it's also something that is supported by our Act. And then coming to the Act itself, it's also an area that we need to look at, especially now, 22, 23 years after the Act. There's no mention of AI definitely in the Act. So there's need for that. There's need also to look at the ethics around the AI. How is it going to be applied in our industry, for instance? We talked earlier, Mr. Tony has spoken about how AI is being used for maintenance, for instance. And then it now comes down to the fact that, we look at the act that sets up the commission as the regulator, and we don't have anything AI. So we need to look at that act, which is, of course, under review now, and it's an opportunity for all of us to really provide inputs in areas like this. When you apply AI for maintenance, for instance, you look at AI in general, we know the biases that are there. We know that the models themselves become hallucinated. So we have to also look at that in that perspective, that the models can equally become hallucinated when it comes to maintenance, for example. So it's now the responsibility of us as regulators to see how that is applied and how that becomes something relevant. Then on power, of course, the Commission, even though we're not the regulators for the power industry, but we know the impact of power, how power provision has become on the industry. IHS has mentioned that they are more or less now a power company than an infrastructure company, which is true. And it's also true to most of our service providers when you do that level of provision, make provisions for power alone. Then for that, the Commission, at the moment, we're working with the Rural Electrification Agency to see how we can map their mini grid systems that they are busy working on to our towers. So we want to see a correlation, or we want them to encourage them to map those mini grid locations to where there are towers, for instance, and this will help with the OPEX for entrance and so. And we're also working about the critical national information infrastructure, how to safeguard them. We have these fault reporting portals that we have links on our website and things like that. So all those are geared towards making sure that we have some sort of ability to either predict or to highlight where there are faults. And then on the regulatory aspect, we're also currently working on wholesale broadband studies and open access studies, which we hope at the end, once it's unveiled and it's done, it will give opportunity for players in the industry to see where the play fairly in the industry, and our consumers would get the best chances that is there. And then, of course, cybersecurity is another key area that we are not lost on. AI itself needs its own security, the data centers, the network infrastructure, the services, and so on. So cybersecurity, as my EVC has mentioned earlier on, we have the cybersecurity resiliency framework for the communications industry, which the draft version is already in circulation, and we're taking feedbacks from players. And that will form a basis to ensure that all players in the industry have put in place enough cybersecurity in their networks to ensure that the future networks, the AIs, and every other thing is secured, and we win the trust of people. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Ajay Babagana. You covered, I kind of always celebrate the NCC as the leader in progressive regulation, supervision, and so on. And I think the scope you've discussed and what you're taking into account is sort of a reflection of that. There's a lot to do, but it's not that we're starting from scratch. Now, starting to address some of the power thing, Wilson, we heard about bring your own power, BYOP. I thought we'd been doing that for the last 30 years. Pardon me. I'm still having a little bit of a cold from. So what does it mean now, this BYOP? What's the new version, BYOP version latest? What do you mean by it? Bring your own power. Is it within the data center, or bring your own power externally? What does it really mean?
Okay, thank you very much. So it's basically externally. I was listening to somebody yesterday or during the week, and he was talking about having experience from the oil and gas sector. Now we know our various power, types of power we have in Nigeria. I mean, when it comes to generation, gas fired plants, we have the thermal, we have the hydro, and all of that. So with the current regulation where we have power being decentralized in Nigeria today, I think the data centers can really tap into that particular new policy where states now have capacity to do their own generation, to also have the transmission companies and all of that, to say, look, this gas pipeline, I think currently there's a gas corridor coming from, I think the Lekki deep sea port area down and all of that.
West to east.
Yes. So I think that is a possibility where data centers around that corridor can actually tap off that gas and have their own gas-fired plants so that they can be off the national grid itself. They can even sell power eventually as time goes on in the future. But currently, or on the short run, they can start having their gas-fired generators. This will really help to cut down on the costs of running diesel, because we all know what it is, power, not just in Nigeria, but in many places across Africa, which has always been that big challenge. And currently what the guys are doing today and most of the data centers, you should know very well, we have the gas generators. A lot of guys are saying, okay, gas is quite cheaper in terms of cost per kilogram. They're having their gas generators, and so they're bringing the power to sites and firing their gas generators, but it is not enough. It is not enough. I think when we start having these pipelines coming in and the guys are able to tap into the facility and fire their data centers, a lot will happen. It will get to the point where these data centers will also be able to sell power to communities around them and all of that, and so generates income on one hand and all of that. So basically, we are already moving in that direction with what we see happening in that corridor here in Lagos, and the future looks bright, but It's a bit slow, but of course, there's already a roadmap, and I believe it's going to do a great deal for the data centers. Thank you.
Yeah, something to add is that I always say power is not a great global leveler. Everybody's now having to bring your own power, right? Even in the UK, in the US, people are now looking for small nuclear reactors, you know, to get their own power. So we're going to have to find our own power somewhere. Moving on to some of that DC readiness, Bukola, and you see the picture also from the connectivity point of view, the MNO point of view, from the distribution infrastructure point of view, from the data center point of view. You mentioned the AI-ready data center. How do you see that build out, the AI readiness, what it means, and how we can get our data centers AI-ready while we still need to deal with some of these power and connectivity issues, for instance, around where you're located?
Okay, thank you so much, Dr. Coker. Just writing on what everybody has said, AI readiness is centered around those 4 areas we've been talking about, which is compute and availability, connectivity and throughput. You're looking at the energy, the power, and then you look at your data governance. So for me, if I look at the first one around compute, we'll talk about data centers, Kendall, and all the rest I've shared, and MTN is already progressing in that with the recent Dabenga Center that was launched for commercial purposes. And like I said earlier on, the intention is to make it AI ready. But one of the things we must also know when it comes to compute, it's what it takes to make those data centers highly available for AI. We have data center pre-AI era that serves the normal day-to-day. But when it comes to AI, those data center needs high availability, because when you are training the data model, you need that stability, you need that resilience within our data center. The challenge around connectivity, which majority of these panelists have spoken about, is for me is around throughput. AI needs low latency, reliable connectivity for it to work. If you look at most African countries now, our fiber penetration is in the single digits, and it's a problem across Africa. How do we progress that? It's the basics. If you don't have connectivity, you can't even talk about AI. But I think the good thing is, since we are aware of this challenge, as against building the basics, the new networks should be AI ready, so that as we are bridging the connectivity challenge, we are also making them AI ready. And that will help us to be able to drive the challenges around connectivity. And also I hear you, Dr. Coker, you talk about, we have it, but affordability. How do we partner to make sure that, especially in the rural areas, startups, people are, incentives are there to support these early startups? When we launched the Dabenga Data Center, one of the initiatives we did was what we call the accelerator program. And we saw a lot of startups that opted in. They wanted platforms where they can build their different initiatives, whether they're in fintech, and MTN is already working with them on that. How do we do that on a global scale or national scale, where we have the government sponsoring this accelerator program to make sure that we help people to be able to do it? In terms of energy, I'll talk about, most time we talk about energy for AI. What about AI for energy? How do we bring AI into energy? Today, there are a lot of waste. When you deploy some AI model, it will tell us where there are inefficiencies in our power generation, because some of the power we generate are also being wasted. How do we handle AI for energy? We reduce costs. AI models can be deployed in majority of our power stations, and that will bring efficiencies in what we do. So we also need to look at that, because one of the major areas in energy is cooling challenges. Cooling is going to be a major differentiator. A lot of data now use air cooling, but when AI gets it, we need liquid cooling, and that is very, very expensive. So how do we make sure that we do not energy for AI, but AI for energy, to make sure that we bring cooling costs into bearable? And finally, for me, is data. AI readiness. Data is the fuel for AI. No matter how good your infrastructure is, you need to overcome the challenges in data. Across Africa, we have a lot of unstructured or siloed data. The data and image are very weak. Metadata is not in place. Then we have poor data governance. NITDA, the colleague from NITDA, talk about a lot of things we do about data privacy. But for AI, we have to be intentional about it. And then we have fragmented APIs at constitution. Different institutions in Nigeria have different APIs, and they store data in a fragmented way. All this we need to bring together. So for us to be really ready, it's not only about compute, it's about the data quality, interoperability of this data, and the governance around it. So when we are looking at it, we are looking at the countries or the continent that have the most AI ambition will not win, but the countries with the strongest infrastructure discipline will be the ones to lead the AI. Thank you.
The country with the strongest infrastructure discipline will be the ones to lead in AI. Fantastic. So it seems like, we're talking about AI-ready data centers. When it comes to the cooling, there's something I talk about actually in the 1990 challenge over the years. In Nigeria, we have 90% humidity, and we have 90 degrees Fahrenheit, and we have to run efficient data centers. So I think it will push us to liquid cooling pretty quickly. So I think Vertiv will be very, very happy with that, given what they've shared with us on their available infrastructure. Something I also picked out is you talked about AI-ready connectivity, right? Mass connectivity, AI-ready data center, AI-ready energy, bring your own power as part of that. And I guess AI-ready regulation. So everything together has to be AI-ready. So we've talked around quite a few subject areas here. I'm going to give some time for questions. But before we do that, right, and we've talked about the different pillars, ethics, cybersecurity, risk, and so on. Collaboration has come in quite significantly in what we need to do here as well. But just before we move on, and of course, the investment requirements in local capacity and capability, can you just give, a couple of sentences? I'll go around all of the panelists now, and I'll start with Bukola again, just as we did the order of the introductions, right? When people say one single important infrastructure investment, I guess, it's not one, but pick your own two of what is a multifaceted bunch of challenges, opportunities, things we need to think about. Just pick your own two in terms of what we should be focusing on now, especially in the Nigeria and Africa context. That we should prioritize to drive our AI journey. Back to you, Bukola.
Thank you. I will say energy and connectivity. If we get it right, we will not just consume AI, we will export AI. Very important.
Thank you, fantastic. One funny thing, we've been talking about our build out of the 24 megawatt data center, right? And if 12 months ago, 18 months ago, you'd have told me that, I'm scratching my head with my team, that we're actually talking about a possible 50 megawatt capacity for the same space. It's quite amazing, quite remarkable. What it means is we're now going from thinking, how do we bring your own power, right? How do we generate 50 megawatts to just think about it, mind-blowing. We're moving to needing to generate 100 megawatts. And that's shifting just the last 12 to 18 months. So Kendall, how do you see it? I'll move on to you now.
Mine, I would say two areas. First one would be making AI itself an asset class, right? So when ChatGPT launched, it was a case of, is it just a fad? Is it like crypto, early days of crypto? But we've seen 3 years down the road that is real, right? But if you're going to attract investment, you really need people with patient capital, so infrastructure funds, DFIs, and pension capital. And then for them to be able to invest, they have to see clear long-term contracts for connectivity. So so the way we are current B2C plans, we need things that are more long-term so that they can actually extrapolate into the future and put down the investment that is required, because a lot of investments are there. We also need anchor tenants too. So the bigger organizations need to start thinking about AI adoption within themselves, right? So if you're talking about operators, government itself, right, the banks, right, if we start seeing those kind of people adopt AI significantly, then more people will think about investing in that area. And then the second part will be about talent. We already saw how our startups really got onto building, having the talent to write software, right? So same thing too on the AI side. We need a lot of people actually, AI researchers, right? We need more talent around building more training models, the kind of skills that we require for writing AI agents, writing MCP servers to provide the data, the tools for the AI agents too. So that aspect is an aspect that, again, we have the internet. You can learn, you can train, you can self-teach yourself. And that's an area we can actually really distinguish ourselves too. Then the last piece will be using the talent itself, right, around training the models itself, labeling data and all that. That should come to Africa very easily because talent here is actually cheaper compared globally. So those are the two areas that I think investment should go into. Infrastructure itself, right, attracting DFI funds and infrastructure funds, and then talent itself. Thank you.
Yeah, and great that you can see you talk to investors. There's a lot of activity with World Bank, with IFC, with FinFund, the kind of Scandinavians, Dutch coming in with interest and very good Africa focus. So the key thing is to just drive that, and it's encouraging to see that from investment point of view. I remember we added that other C called cash.
Very important.
It helps. Yes, cash is king. Mike, over to you.
Yeah, great. There's so many points to talk about here, so I'll focus on I think the important ones. And again, it builds on Kendall's. So thank you, Kendall, for bringing a few important points. The investors, you know, I worked with them before outside of this subject altogether here in the United States. And one very important thing, that they're smart people. They want to see a plan, a roadmap, a clarity. They catch all the bumps on the way. They know it. That's what they do for a living. So in my opinion, building the infrastructure is not something that can go solo. There's so many entities that needs to be involved in it. Whether it was the fiber, the power, the carriers of the world and what have you, that all has to happen collaboratively. It's not a transactional situation. It's not a transactional relationship between a company and AI. So I believe the entities that are involved, like the infrastructure, the carriers, the fiber, the advice, everything, it's an ecosystem. They need to get together and come up with a plan, a solid plan to make it happen in the first place. Otherwise it won't, or it will be challenging to go solo, very expensive to say the least. But for investors to come in, they need to see this collaboration. I mean, I remember here in the United States when telco came about, I mean, cellular boom happened in the early 90s, mid 90s. I mean, you saw the companies working as clusters, contractors with the carriers, with the infrastructure, with the government entity, and they would move. And then United States is a very big land, and they managed. You know, it's talk about thousands of kilometers. We're talking a much bigger scale here, actually. But they all work in collaboration together. So I don't think it's a situation where anybody needs to be a hero here and try to do it by themselves. I think that would be very challenging if it's even doable by a company, and that will get the investors to be more interested.
Yeah. Oladejo, I kind of skipped you, so perhaps it was also a fortuitous error, because then you're slotting it at the right time when we're talking about broader picture view, plan, and stuff like that. What's your take on that? Of your talk?
So I still agree with Mike, and Wilson on the issue of collaboration. That's my first thing. You need to collaborate on this because, like it was mentioned earlier, no single entity can build this alone. We have data centers involved, we have the cloud hyperscalers involved, we have the government involved, we have the academia involved, you know. So, and then the skills that need to be built to actually drive these continuously, we need, it's needed. So collaboration is very key. And then another key thing is data sovereignty. We need to own our data. We need to have a way of saying, okay, the data center, we have the data centers here, they have the capacity, they have the capability. We need the hyperscalers to say, look, identify this, the fact that these data centers are here in Nigeria and they need to, you know, partner with them and see how we can have that data here localized in Nigeria, because data is the currency on which AI is running on actually. Without the data, we have no AI. So we don't want a situation whereby at the end of the day, the data is our data, strategic data is kept somewhere and you want to have access to it, you have to pay for it. It might come to that later on because is a currency which we'll start to trade with very soon. And we need to have sovereignty over our data. So very key things is data sovereignty and then collaboration. And like has been mentioned by one of the speakers, the collaboration will boil into the issue of interoperability. Yes, and NITDA is part of our key initiatives also to ensure interoperability between provision of government digital services, because we're trying to drive the DPI, the digital public infrastructure, and the exchange part of it has to do with interoperability, how APIs work together, and it's key. So that is one of the things we have been looking at, and we are actually working on it in NITDA. Thank you very much.
Fantastic interoperability. And just for panelists, there's the Q&A tab on your Zoom. There's some questions coming there. So what I suggest is if you just track it and add your own input into responding to those Q&As from that tab as we go along. So Wilson, your take.
Okay, for me, I think I would probably go a different route. We're looking at the future. We're talking about the future, AI is the future and all of that. We need to look at the skill sets. Training, and raising up, because we look, seeing the demography we're talking about, the youths between ages of 15 and maybe 35, we have a huge population around that. So there must be a deliberate collaboration between the operators, I mean, telecom operators, the data center operators, with our schools to ensure we get students trained before they come out of the university, because we know the data center environments are mission critical environment. You don't want to unleash an untrained person into your facility, and before you know it, you know, litigations and all of that because of downtime and everything. So I believe there should be a deliberate program in place, not the regular IT programs that we have, which sometimes we know these things are not really meeting the demands. So I think it should be like the operators now working directly with the schools, selecting particular schools, and having young people, undergraduates, trained even before they come out of the university. So while they are coming out, they are not coming out to do IT or do whatever again. They're coming out to start up as people who already know what the industry holds, because somebody coming out of school, a graduate, 5-year course, engineering, doesn't know anything about racks, doesn't know cooling, doesn't know nothing. So I think for me, there should be a deliberate attempt by the data centers themselves, the operators of telcos themselves, to ensure this synergy, this synergy is built with institutions to ensure students come out and immediately they are able to meet, because when people, skills will always go. There's always this jackpot syndrome of skills and all of that. You don't, because of that, want to kill yourself or keep somebody staying forever that doesn't want to stay again. There should be a pool of people coming into the industry, and that way we are sure the future is secured. I think that's my major take on this.
Let's secure the future. And Engineer Babagana.
Oh, thank you, Dr. Coker. To me, I think the focus of government or the focus of the country as a whole should be a strategic policy direction. We've already seen that with things like the Project Bridge, the 7,000 BTS, and so on. But if we also look at it from a wider perspective, let's take the Lagos-Calabar highway, for example. Nothing stops us from laying corrugated optical duct along that corridor, and I will take it up to including, let's say, Bonny Island, where we have the LNG Train 7, which is going on. And by just doing these two acts together, for instance, you already have the basic thing. You have power, can be provided, you have cooling at Bonny, and then you also have the link that provides that. So if government should commit, overlay some of these projects with a direction, a commitment, then I think we are going to have a sheet that will also help us with both infrastructure, attracting investors, and of course, things like people like Coleman Cable, for instance, who is manufacturing fiber, will gladly come on board on such an arrangement. Thank you. So it's a strategic policy direction for me.
Yeah, and there's much that can be homegrown. The fiber manufacturing, they've expanded their plant. And one thing I recall reading in the newspapers, I think earlier this week, that 70% of our power plants are performing under capacity. And it looks like we have a huge distribution problem to deal with, but we just have to bring our own power anyway. So it seems to be where it's going, you know. And Dotun, you gave us a multifaceted perspective earlier on of the 8 pillars and so on. So bring your 2 pillars into the conclusion.
Thank you very much. I listened attentively to everyone, and I'm going to be building on what Wilson said. In Nigeria, 63% of the population is under the age of 25. So we have a foundation, a non-profit that we've been pushing to sort of focus on the younger generation. We have a community of learning and practice, which collaboration with some of the colleagues on this panel will really help to move this forward. And the thinking is this, you know, no matter how much we talk about infrastructure, talk about data, we will need local talent to ultimately drive this. There's a lot of ambition within the AI sphere across different sectors. And I like the comment about what AI in power, because there are so many things we can talk about, the challenges we have, but AI can solve a lot of problems that exist. So one key area we are looking at is the talent development, and it's about catching them young. So in terms of looking across Nigeria, we currently have 40 locations, but that is nothing in terms of what we are looking to do, and we can't do it a lot. So we already have communities of learning and practice where on a monthly basis, there is a continuation of learning in terms of different skill sets and talking and discussing about, evolving topics and things to look at from a local lens and local perspective. But then one of the things we're kind of been pushing is look at going into, similar to what Wilson said, going into schools and having an AI club to be able to sort of teach about different key subject area for teenagers to begin to understand and be able to visualize. We've all gone through the education system in Nigeria. Engineers don't know what a rack, is. A lot of computer science, colleagues of mine or sort of those who went through, they didn't see a proper PC until they left. Everything was done on paper in most of the time. So we want to sort of catch them young. So talent is a focus. We're already working with those that are maybe graduates working in different areas, want to come into AI, and sometimes some of the technical people who want to cross into AI. So I think talent is one key area. We have something we call the AI tripod, which is talent, computer, data. But we found that talent is quite critical in what we can directly impact based on our, our capacity as well of influence, but collaboration with players within the industry and the ecosystem, from the infrastructure players, telco players, regulators, to kind of help develop talent, because as we go ahead, there will be the need to have those who actually understand AI policy, AI governance, those who will be able to understand the cybersecurity elements, the engineers. We'll have those who will be able to test for bias and things like that, because QA is not just about, in AI, it wouldn't just be about the technology. You need to be able to test for, bias and some other things, explainability, etc. So talent is the key area, I would say, I want to sort of happen on, and it's one big focus for us at AI Nigeria. Thank you.
You seem to be
muted. Yes. How do we, Temitope, how do we deal with questions and answers? We can have a couple of questions come through.
Yes. So thank you, Doctor. That was very good and expertly done moderation. We have, I think we have 3 questions. There's one for Okechi, well, previously for Okechi. So I hope that either Okechi or another Vertiv representative can handle that. So that question is, how are we complying with, but I think that question for NCC for Vertiv, that can be taken offline. Please, Adeoti, can you reach out to, I can provide a contact for you to reach out to, so we can take that offline. I'll go to Samuel Boluwaji's question. Do we have a sustainable maintenance pipeline to support the continuous development of AI systems and operations in Nigeria? So maybe Dotun can take this, and maybe any other takers. And then the last question is from John Agbakoba. IT skills are best learned practically. How can internship opportunities be accelerated? Can government offer tax relief to private firms accepting high interns? Maybe that can be given to the NCC and the NITDA reps. Doctor, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, let's do the NCC response on that.
Okay, if I can take that, I think personally, I think I agree. I agree that yes, having interns to learn on the job or practically about AI or other aspects of technology is quite important. But it's also for government to decide about tax incentives. That is not under the purview of the NCC, but I think we agree that having them not only for interns, but also taking those trainings and opportunities to the schools where the students are is also key, and it's one of the things that the NCC has been in the forefront of providing trainings. We, for example, helped establish the Digital Bridge Institute, whose main objective, of course, is to bridge the gap between technology in terms of information, in terms of talents, in terms of training. And it's key that we continuously do that for the industry. And of course, so many of our licensees have also statutorily had to take in interns, for example. So it's something key that government should look at. And it's also an area where we are collaborating with the NUC, for instance, about to see that the curricula in schools have reflected the current realities on ground. So I think I'm in support of that. Thank you.
Okay, okay. All right. So still on the issue of internship, we see it has popped up quite a lot during this our conversation. So yeah, it's a welcome suggestion, and it's something we will look at and see how we can actually give incentives to those that participate on the scheme. But just to bring you up to speed, regarding digital literacy, this is one of the key areas we have actually looked at. And we have a framework called the National Digital Literacy Framework, which addresses building capacity in emerging techs. AI is one of them, and it's one of the key areas that the implementation of the framework under the 3 million tech talent is focused on. So this is actually, the training is actually being coordinated in such a way to see that actual hands-on experience is gotten. This is very key because we realize that with emerging techs, you have to actually have that knowledge. Then another way which you have tried to ensure this is that the curriculum of working together with the Federal Ministry of Education and UBEC, we have actually worked on the curriculum of primary schools, secondary school, and tertiary institutions. And by next year, there will be changes in those curriculums. They will start being implemented. And it has taken care of the major emerging techs to make sure that what is being taught in schools, in primary, secondary, universities is relevant to the present day reality and addressing our challenges in Nigeria. Thank you. I think Dotun is also answering that question on the chat box. Thank you.
Yeah, Dotun, can you come in briefly, please? And then given time, I suggest we round up after that.
All right. So internship question and hands-on experience is always a query we get from different parts of Nigeria. And what we have done, we have a scheme where we have interns come in and we handhold them, mentor them through seniors who are able to sort of show them the ropes as you do with internship. And a good example, very simple one, is, for instance, we've had in governance, some law students who reach out and say, oh, we are interested to go into the area of AI governance. How can we go into this? And we ensure that we take them through the ropes with different tasks and different things. We've also had in the area of our engineering team, we've had in the area of marketing. So this is an ongoing recurring query that we have. And interestingly, it's usually from the younger generation asking to want to come into this because they're excited about the possibilities. So yeah, thank you.
Fantastic. So in summary, I'd like to thank all of the panelists fantastically. We talked about power, we talked about connectivity, we talked about data centers, sort of that trio for digital infrastructure. But also we have smart regulation, that's really key around that, collaboration as a really key thing. And then one thing that really came out finally is talent, talent, talent. And if the panelists here are a reflection of the talent we have, then hey, we are in a really great place. And what a talented set of panelists we have today. Thank you very much. And it's been a great session. I've been delighted to have had the honor of moderating such a talented and experienced, wide-ranging colleagues on the panel board. Thank you very much. And thank you to the participants as well.
Thank you.
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 Thank you to you, Dr. Coker, for such an interesting session, and then the great insights from everybody on the panel. We spoke about many things, and Dr. Coker has captured that in his closing, talent and so on. I have one quick reflection, and I think it's something I would like us to take away from here. Dr. Coker mentioned earlier that we had the World Bank Energy Workshop in Cape Town, and one of the insights I got from that event was they said that Africa imports 15 gigawatts of solar panels every year. So every year, Africa imports 15 gigawatts of solar panels every year. So what would it take for us to have some of those local panels, some of those panels locally manufactured? If we have such a huge solar panel demand, why would it take to collaborate around that? So maybe that's something we can take from here. I want to quickly go to the last item on the agenda. So we're having a solutions showcase. From Vertiv, Olajide Aminu, Regional Manager, Vertiv. Olajide, are you here?
Yes.
Okay, take it away. Great. Thank you. Take it away.
Before Olajide goes, quickly, as he's starting to share anyway, it's International Men's Day. So congratulations to all the men on the panel and on the audience.
Congratulations to all of us, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Please confirm you can see my screen, Team Topian all.
Yes, we can see it.
Okay, thank you. Again, this is Jide Aminu. Good afternoon to everyone observing the protocol. This is Jide Aminu from Vertiv, Regional Account Manager. Now, a lot has been said today. We've spoken a lot about the Vertiv solution, ranging from the DC to the UPS, to the cooling, the rack, smart aisle, and all that. And then the question that will definitely come up is, do we have sites where these solutions have been deployed in the past? Do we have the experience to run it on behalf of all our partners? That's the reason for this session. It's called the Project Reference Site. A quick one on the left, we've deployed a lot of solutions here and there in EMEA, Global, Africa, and all that. Currently, this is Australia on the left. That's a 20 megawatt turnkey project capacity that we deployed in Australia for MBNco in Myanmar, in Spain, Germany, Sweden, Belarus. I won't bore you to go through all this, but this just shows some of the things we've done across board globally. This is another one we've done on the global scene. This is on the EMEA scene. NDA GCC, we deployed 1,800 square meter data center. It's a tier 3 data center, and we did a massive prefabricated data center in the building with over 200 modules. Another one we deployed in South Africa, that was between 2017 and 2018 with Dimension Data. I think my next slide will shed more light on this very one, which is a Dimension Data as well for 2.4 megawatts. We have the UAE, we have the Egypt, that's UAE, that's for that. We have for Vodafone in Egypt. We also have MTN in Ghana and Nigeria. We've been doing that since 2014. In Saudi Arabia, we also deployed some data center over there. Now, this is to shed more light on the Dimension Data I spoke about in South Africa. This is the 2.4 megawatt tier 3 data center. Now, this is a rapid deployment, and then it's good for scalability. What this means is that you can have between 150 and over 560 different racks in this data center. However, you do not need to start with the power at a go. You can start with something small, and then you scale up as your power or your business expands. We did this between 6 months. We deployed this on site, and we did everything calmly. This is another site installation. This was during the time of site preparation and everything. If you observe closely, you observe that we don't necessarily need to break the floor, build a lot of things, because we are just going to deploy our data center on site. All we just need to do is to raise the floor a bit, and then we drop the containers on site. This is the completed site of this very one that I showed initially. This is the completed site. On the right here, this is where we have the battery. We have the fire suppression in case of spike. This is where we have the cabinets. The racks can be put in this position. Here, there's an aisle here where you can pass through where you want to do any physical check on site. Very neat, very cool. This is one of the completed projects, some of the projects we've done in Ghana. Apollonia Data Center, that's for main one facility. We have a Medallion, GMPC in Ghana, Cocoa Board, Ghana Revenue Board, Ethics that are now called Onyx, and then MTN Ghana. Again, this is just some out of the so many deployments that we've done in Africa entirely. This is Lagos, Nigeria preferred modules being transported to site on low bed trucks. So what this means is that this is just to show you that it's a process, is a work in progress in this state where we were conveying the truck to the site. And this was when we started dropping the truck with the cranes one after the other. And I think on the next slide, you'll see where we've joined two of them. The idea is to rack 3 different modules with 3 different containers. We have 1, we have 2, and then the third one will be on top of it. What this means is that you don't necessarily need to say there is a space constraint. Even with the space constraint, Vertiv can as well utilize the space that you have, and then we design something that suits your environment. And this is the completed site. We have the 1, we have 2, and then we have 3, all stacked up on the same level. Now, on the outside of it is stacked modules of level 3 with condensers on the outside, on the roof of it. The job of this condenser is to help extract the heat from the building, and then we have the cooling unit to now do the blow of cooling air into the cabinet. This is the back of that same installation. At the back, there's an integration of some generators and then the container. This is to enable us to have extended runtime. For those who would say, hey, we want to run for hours, and then the UPS is not able to run for longer hours, the idea is to have generators at the back, and then we integrate it with our data center so you can have longer time of runtime. Yeah, this is our smart aisle. On this side here, you have the entrance where you go into the smart aisle. On the right and on the left, you have the cabinets. You have the smart room on the right and on the left. You walk in, and then you can operate each of them from every side, be it on the right or on the left. Again, this is another view of the power units. Here we have the fire suppression. We have the different racks here, and then we have the UPS and batteries all together neatly installed. One of the things I like about the Vertiv solution is the fact that they are always neatly installed. You won't see wire dongles on the floor. We have the PDUs allowing the integration of all the units to be together, vis-a-vis the UPS, the battery, the racks, everything installed without hassle. This is another angle that shows where we have the power units, the distribution box, the switchgear, and then the batteries all together within the same unit. Back here, you have the fire suppression unit to help in case there is a spike. This is a smart row. Here on this black unit you can see here is the condenser, and what that does is to help us extract the heat from the site, and then on the ground we have some air, cool air coming out to blow the unit. This is what helps us to cool the items so they don't go overheating. A lot of questions have been asked that, you know, with the introduction of AI, definitely there's going to be much heat. We have our cooling unit on ground to help us eliminate the heat without issues. This is another fire suppression unit with the power modules hand in hand. This was a work in progress for the prefabricated data center. On this carton here, we'll be having some of our smart our cabinets displayed on them. Now, on the outside of it, we have the condenser again to help us extract the heat. This is just another back view to let you know that even apart from the inside view that were installed, the outdoor of it are also well installed. Now, to quickly go into this, I'll be giving 2 different case studies for Egypt and Nigeria. For Egypt, we're talking about Vodafone, that is MTX. They needed after losing that opportunity, they now invited Vertiv. They needed us to deploy the solutions on site in a very fast way. We were able to do that within 1 month, and then we commissioned it on site. Because of time, I'll be rushing there. And this is my final slide. This one was done for MTN. What they needed was a scalable alternative for quickly rollout of mobile switching centers in 5 different locations. And we were able to do that. We were able to inculcate the UPS, the precision cooling, everything. We were able to inculcate everything, and then we were able to have improved wireless network performance for MTN, and then they were able to expand their facility at the existing site. Thank you very much. I will be moving back to Temitope now. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Jide.
Was I able to utilize time? I understand I had time constraints. Thank you.
Yes, Jide. Thank you so much. We actually wanted to wrap up at 1, and we are just 1 minute shy of that. I'll quickly do this in 20 seconds. Thank you very much, everyone. It's been a very impactful session. We'll be capturing everything we've said in some reports that will be coming after this. So please watch out for that. And we'll also be sending the presentation, some of these videos and so on from some of the partners, some of the keynotes. We'll also be sharing that shortly with you. Please watch out for that. We have a connectivity workshop December 9. It's a very targeted event, and it follows the connectivity discussion at our Convergence Africa conference around 70% broadband access, infrastructure collaboration, and shared networks. It's highly closed. If this is of interest to you and you work in connectivity, please send a mail to projects@thehyperscalers.com. I'll be happy to look at that. Thank you very much. And as Dr. Coker has said, happy International Men's Day to all our men and women supporting men. Thank you all. Have a great day. Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.